Hey, Wire Monkeys, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. This week, we're talking about an event that you should either attend or support. Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, technicians, project managers, estimators, customers, everybody, where we connect at the human level so that we can connect the world. Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Thursday nights, no, Chuck. Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? You know, I do a live stream on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, pretty much everywhere, where you get to ask your favorite RCDD, and you know that's me, your questions on installation, design, certification, even career path. But I can hear you now. But Chuck, I'm driving my truck on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. I don't want to get into an accident. It's okay. I record them, and then they're posted on the website, so you can consume them at your convenience. Also, while this show is free and will always remain free, would you mind clicking on that QR code right there? You can buy me a cup of coffee. You can even schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with me, after hours, of course. And there are other ways you can support the show as well. Last week, I did a show on how one organization was giving back to its community. Now I'm picking up another show. We're going to do another show on another organization that's also giving back to another community. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Anthony. How you doing, my friend?
Hey Chuck, great to be back on Let's Talk Cable, and it's always good to see you, whether it be in person or on this platform. Great job. Knowledge is power. Love what you guys are doing and bringing it to the masses. It's amazing.
We do, and we're finally gaining some traction. Oh, hey, wait a minute! You got an on-air sign in behind you. How come I don't have one? What's up with
uh,
that? I'm not.
Danielle,
I'm starting to feel
Danielle,
jealous.
Danielle bought that for me. You know, Danielle Conti in our office. So she had bought that. This is my home office, so I get to every so often be working from home, so that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a little while since you've been on the show. Why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are and who do you work for?
Yeah, so easy enough. For those of you who don't know me, Anthony Romeo here. I'm the managing director and partner of Wise Components. We're a stocking distributor of low voltage infrastructure as well as OEM component parts. We'll be celebrating our 50th year incorporated, as the roots of the company go back to 1937 on Westchester Avenue in the Bronx, New York, when it was called Westchester Industrial Supply Electronic Components. 1975, we had the brilliance to rename the company, incorporate it, and call it Wise Components. So, in addition to being a partner and dedicated to Wise Components, I sit on a few committees. One with BICSI, I sit on the professional development committee with Alvin Gilmore, and brilliant folks over there talking about the IEEE, TIA standards, mentorship program, women in BICSI, and so much more. And then there's the 7x24 exchange, where the New York Metro chapter that I'm a part of, I last year became the chair of the Veterans Committee. So, being a veteran myself, served proudly in the United States Navy during Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. And I'm proud to say that the skills and attributes that I've learned and adapt to my everyday life in the distribution field, as well as in the telecom space. As in the military, we were tasked in Fifth Fleet to get people and logistics from one place safely to another. Not much has changed, right? So in 7x24 exchange, they're slightly different than BICSI, both non-for-profit educational organizations that are focused on standards, right? And that being said, difference between the two, BICSI is very focused on the network infrastructure, the IT side of the house, whereas 7x24 exchange looks at every single aspect of a data center, from site survey, site selection rather, a state and country tax breaks and incentives, alternative power sources, structural material that are building to construct an actual facility. And then it talks about power and cooling, as well as telecommunications and network infrastructure that goes into a data center. So with that said, when I was, because I've been part of both organizations for a while now, 7 by 24, similar to the military, you wear many hats, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to get the job done. It's not just the telecom, it's not just the electric. There's all different aspects. And like in the military, there's all different aspects. Not everybody's just carrying weapons and looking to be point man. There's so many different jobs in the military. So a buddy of mine who was part of the organization for many years, Herb Tracy, he's the director of facilities for BlackRock, a small little company. He too served proudly in the United States Navy, and he and I were kicking around the idea saying that, with veterans transitioning out of the military, sometimes they don't have a mentor, sometimes they don't have the guidance. We were very fortunate that we had people looking out for us and said, "Hey, this is a lucrative career that you could make, or at least a good, solid job where you could apply your skills and attributes that you've learned in the military." So, with that said, Herb and I said we got to do something, and we had brought it to Brian Schaefer. Brian Schaefer runs a engineering firm called Highland Associates, and he's also the president of that particular chapter. So we ran the idea by him, and he blessed it. He thought it was a brilliant idea, as there's many chapters in 7 by 24. This 35-year old or young organization, they have roughly 20 chapters internationally, domestic and international. So, like similar to BICSI, for those of your listeners that are familiar with all the different certifications and programs that BICSI offers, again, specific to the telecom side of the house and network data, 7 by 24 has many of those, as well as certifications around other skill sets that help build out the entire evolution of a data center.
How big of an organization is 7 by 24?
Again, it has probably around 20 chapters internationally. They're in the local area to me where I sit in New York. So there's upstate New York, then there's the New York Metro, which also falls into New Jersey as well. Then there's the Northern Virginia, DC chapter, and then Western Virginia. There's New England chapters, North Carolina. There's Texas, San Francisco. There's probably about 15 just in the US, and then you have EU and UK.
So about how many members is that?
Member wise, you're probably looking at, I haven't looked at the latest, but we're probably around 20,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And can you explain the name? How did it come up with 7 by 24?
So I don't know the exact story behind the name, but basically it's 7 days a week, 24 hours around the clock. It's mission critical, or the data center is known because if you're in a healthcare space and you're on the operating table and you need to know what type of drugs can be administered and what drugs can't be administered, kind of life threatening. If you're trading billions and trillions of dollars in a millisecond, and you don't want your system to go down because that's an issue. So those two big things right there, it's mission critical. But then also you have utility companies and you have military installations that are modular data centers that get deployed out in the field. So all these different aspects of a data center, it's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So the exchange, which is what the data center is referred to. So that said, you could summarize it by that, the name.
Hey there, business owners and tech enthusiasts. Are you tired of dealing with outdated technology and unreliable IT support? Introducing Better Days Technology, Rhode Island's premier IT solution provider. Whether you need secure network setups, top-notch cybersecurity, or seamless software integrations, Better Days Technology has got you covered. Don't let tech troubles hold you back. Visit betterdaystechnology.com or call 401-440-5483 today. One call to us and you'll be having better days. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
So
But
just make sure I understand correctly. They're an educational / certification organization, kind of like BICSI is, like you were saying.
it's similar to BICSI, the training that they offer, they don't hold as many credentials and certifications that BICSI does, but they do a fair amount of events. They just had the national conference that was in Arizona. They do regional meetings. I think a lot more than I can attend. And then hence why one of the things we're doing in the New York metro area on November 11th, we'll be hosting more so of a networking event for veterans that are in the data center space, as well as folks that work in the data center space. The event is free to attend. Space is limited. The registration link we will provide so that people can register in a timely fashion. But in addition to that, we will be having some raffle prizes and 50/50s, as all 100% of the proceeds will go to the DAV, Disabled American Veterans Association.
So the 7x24 organization would be of interest for somebody who's in low voltage to attend.
Oh, 1000%, because there's every vertical. Like I said, when you're building out a data center, you can't just build out a big warehouse without the network infrastructure. So it's definitely critical. What I've found pretty funny in the years that I've been part of it is that I'm the IT guy, because power, cooling, all your MEP, the critical infrastructure that they refer to is because it's, again, just like a hospital or a school or a commercial building. That's the first thing on everybody's mind when the architect is designing the building or the consultant is designing it from every aspect, not just Division 27. They look at the MEP first and foremost, plumbing and electrical, mechanical, right? As we all know. That takes precedence. Now, in our days that we've evolved, I would say on the telecom and network side, we've become more of a utility. Could you imagine, having a data center without robust network infrastructure, right? It's not, the two can't go together. I mean, they can't be without each other, is what I meant to say.
Right.
Years ago when they were first building these things out, they really weren't as robust in the amount of data that they were pushing out. It was more so power, but they are still very power hungry buildings.
Right.
And that's a problem. That could be a whole topic in itself, because, cost of power, cost of land. And as you know, people like ourselves, we have the ability to work remote. So the companies that we work for have a robust network and everything goes to the cloud. But the common mistake that everybody has that's not in the IT space is like, oh, it's up in the cloud, right? But they don't realize that
It's
the
in his
cloud,
magic cloud. Yes.
right?
Yeah. My cloud's sitting right here humming.
Right. So with that said, when Herb Tracy and I were discussing this ways back, last year we did our first veterans outreach event, and it was a huge success. We basically, not only did we not charge anybody for attendance, we gave away prizes, and it was all free. And we said, we probably should, see if we could do it again, because it was such of a great turnout. It was great to commiserate together and talk about the the old days of the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Army, Air Force. We'll even throw the Coast Guard in there, right?
What about
Um,
Space Force?
no, we got Space Force now. I don't know if Space Force is old enough to have any veterans yet.
True, true.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of active Space Force now, but I don't know if they served their 4 years yet.
Gotcha.
Um,
Well,
that
we'll
being,
get to the event here in a second. I'm still curious about this 7 by 24 thing, right? So let's
yeah.
say that 7 by 24 is having a networking event, and I don't know. I happen to have some spare money in the coffer, the podcast coffer, which I don't, but let's say I do, and I hop on a plane to come up to New York. Well, you know the first place I'm going to stop and eat at that place over there in New Jersey,
Harold's.
Harold's. That's it, yes. And then I'm going to go attend this event. What can I expect to see at this event?
Okay. So you're going to see data center managers, facilities managers. This is more of a networking event, but the events other than this that we host, University Challenge is a brilliant event that I find. Um, this one, let me take a step back. So, as I said earlier, there's many chapters of seven that make up 7 by 24. They're all terrific. However, I'm a little bit, close to the vest with New York Metro. So,
I can
um,
understand.
but New York Metro is the only one, to my knowledge, that does the University Challenge. And what the University Challenge is in the beginning of a semester, they get about five schools and go to their engineering departments, and they tell them that they have to build something, a concept, a design that could be implemented into a data center. And they come up with these elaborate, drawings, and even some of them are working designs. And the board will vote on. So last year it was Manhattan College, Rutgers University, uh, New York IT. But I will definitely share the links with that because it's a brilliant event. That event, these young minds come together with brilliant ideas that could be implemented into a data center. One that stands out to me, we did the event at Credit Suisse New York facility probably now 15 years ago. And this group from Manhattan College designed a halo system that went down to the port. So yeah, it was brilliant by design. So it had this very elaborate. It was all done through video. So it had this very elaborate design where they had a pulley system, sensor system that would coincide to pick up any smoke, temperature change, thermal sensor, and then it had an armature that had halon in it, so that now instead of if an explosion, waiting to the big thing happen, if one metric unit on the rack was to be smoking or sparking or arcing, this little armature would go down the hot or cold aisle in a data center and pinpoint that location and just zap it
Wow.
out. So it's in concept phase. I don't believe any manufacturers picked it up yet, but there's been many things that I've seen. I've seen the liquid cooling panels at University Challenge before I've seen them at actually built.
Oh, wow.
So the University Challenge is a brilliant thing that I find that the New York Metro chapter does every year, and I think that one's about 18 years going strong. And every year in the fall, in the spring, sorry, they every year in the spring they host an event at either BlackRock or Credit Suisse or another big venue, and it's a few hundred people, and then there'll be some products along the way that you could touch and feel and talk about features and functions from power and cooling, IT, intelligent IoT devices, things of that nature. There'll be several manufacturers on hand talking about their products, design engineering firms like Cisco Hennessy and others. That said, that one separates from the other events that some of the other chapters are doing. I would also add that every fall, the Northeast Regional, that is comprised of 5 chapters, get together and put together a brilliant conference. It's probably 1,000 or so people that attend. You have end users, you have contractors, you have general contractors, design engineering firms of all aspects, architectural firms like HDR come and attend. They'll have folks from Microsoft or Google, and they'll talk about the latest and greatest, what they're seeing out in the data center from all the different aspects. Again, BICSI is a brilliant, wonderful organization that both you and I are a part of, but it focuses on the telecom network infrastructure. 7x24 looks at that and doesn't kick it to the side and say, hey, that's the little stuff. They look at it all as one ecosystem, so.
Hold that thought. Let's listen to a short message from our sponsor. Don't go anywhere. Bessemer Industries is your trusted partner in cutting-edge telecommunications and security solutions in Central California. From structured cabling and fiber optics to comprehensive telecom and surveillance systems, we've got you covered. Enhance your business with seamless connectivity and top-notch security. Our licensed and insured team ensures that you get the best service tailored to your needs. Why choose Bessemer Industries? Expertly crafted solutions, reliable and secure installations, licensed and insured professionals. Don't wait. Connect with us today and elevate your business to new heights. Bessemer Industries, connecting and securing Central California's businesses one wire at a time. Visit us at www.bessemerindustries.com or call 559-314-7050. Bessemer Industries, your link to seamless connectivity. Now, let's get back to the show.
Is there a cost? Is there a cost to join? Like, you become a BICSI member, there's a cost. Is there a cost to become?
Yes. So to become a member, I would be remiss if I did say I knew each cost, because I subscribe as a organization, company. With that, I get several memberships. So I forget what the individual cost is, but again, I could put that in a link.
Yeah. Send me the link and I'll put that in. I'll put that in the description. So you said it's a networking event. So is there? I mean, I've been to different types of networking events. So I'm kind of having a hard time putting my hand around this. So if you got 1,000 people there, how are you getting them? Are you just having like a dinner party and everybody just talks to each other, or is there?
It's roughly a 3-day event for the regional kickoff, the regional conference kickoff. So they'll have the like late afternoon, the first day, it'll be just mingle and eat and drink with various companies, and then from there the next day it starts early in the morning, like 8 or 9 o'clock. It varies. And they'll have speaker sessions. So, you'll have somebody from Microsoft or HP or Google, you name the end user, right? They'll come in and they'll talk about the latest challenge and what's being applied to fix that solution, with whether it be the MEP side or the IT side. During these speaker sessions, you will also have a venue that would have all the different product material manufacturers showcasing their features, functions, and benefits of working with them. In addition to those folks, you'll have distribution companies like myself or other strategic partners like design build firms. You'll have AWS. They'll poke their head around in there too. They're the biggest and baddest when it comes to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the type of events. The same thing, like I was just saying earlier in this call, the national conference is just a lot bigger. So they'll usually be in either Arizona or Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, right? And the national conference is either in Texas and or Arizona. Sometimes it's in Orlando as well. They move it around. This year was in Arizona. As I said, it's 35-year young organization, so they've had a lot of different places over the years. This past one was in Arizona. But as I was saying about the regional conference, the national conference is the same type of format, just on a bigger scale, a larger scale, I should say, and it's a couple days longer.
I couldn't help but notice when you were talking about the cities where the chapters are located, and you listed off several of them. I couldn't help but notice that those are all major areas where you find a lot of data centers.
Right. So you have owners reps that, like TLM, great group of people. Mike Karen, one of the owners of TLM, they're an owners rep specifically focused on the data center commissioning from start to finish. They're overseeing the general contractors like Klume Construction, or the design engineering firms like Siska Hennessy, and working with them on the behalf of the owner, like hence owner's rep. And Mike Karen and his team of folks, they fly all over the place. They're in London, they're in Ireland, they're in Washington State, Virginia, New York, Texas. But again, going back to the organization as a whole, similar to BICSI, you have a great bunch of people that have been doing this a long time. They're all experts in their space. And to be able to, it's almost like going, and you and I have experienced this both from a contractor standpoint as well as manufacturer, and me as a distributor. You go to a job site and a project kickoff, and you have the owners reps, you have the architects, you have the design engineering, you have the electrical contractors, the telecom contractors, the security contractor, the plumbers, this, that one, HVAC,
all in one place.
And that's what 7x24 is. So
sounds like a great opportunity for a contractor who's looking to break into the data center market, because getting into a data center can be kind of hard. I mean, that's a pretty elite crowd that you're running with when you start talking about cabling and stuff. And they don't just accept any little mom and pop. You got to show that you got a long track record, that you got the depth in employees, the depth in skills, the depth in knowledge to be able to get in that market.
You said it on many of your shows, besides knowledge is power, there's standards, right? And not everybody is at the same level in standards, right? The people that I find that that work and continue to do work in a data center, like you said, they're checked. There's a lot of eyeballs. There's a lot of people looking at you all day long, and they're managed. These things are white glove spaces that need to be maintained in that way. You can't just close the door on an IT, MDF, IDF, and say, next time I open up this door, it's just going to be a rat's nest, and be like, oh my God, who did this job?
But it still ends up like a rat nest, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, with the constraints on power, airflow in a data center, that's another thing that, the maintenance crew, whether it be Equinix or QTS or Digital Realty, these companies are paid very well to monitor and maintain this space to ensure safety first, paramount, right? Of course, you don't want anything blowing up. Mission critical, as we said, so it has to be running 24/7, hence 7x24, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Yep.
These colo facilities, Cyxtera, CyrusOne, QTS, Equinix, the list goes on and on and on. They're paid to maintain that space, and you have this community of people going into a warehouse. For those who've never been in a data center, just think of a Home Depot or a Lowe's with a bunch of IDFs just all over the place. So now you have hot aisles, cold aisles. You have cages that are separating, Fortune 500 companies from Joe's Pizza. It's very important, and it have to be meticulous. So what I find, the contractors are a different caliber. The ones that stay in the data center, you could say, oh yeah, I did a data center, and how many data centers have you done, right? So you we're very fortunate on our end because we're Wise Components as a distributor. We work with a handful of data centers that trust and rely on us for many years. Um, Between our staff and our own certifications being ISO 9001, we're basically getting audited, from an operator by a third party on a quarterly basis to say we have, standard operating procedures. If something is to go wrong,
So it sounds like a real interesting organization to belong to and participate in. But the real reason I wanted to get you on today was to talk about this event that you're
oh
having in a couple weeks.
yeah,
Um, so let's talk about, you kind of already touched on it a tiny bit, but I want to dive more in depth. You know, how did you guys decide to come about this? What's the goal of this meeting? Because you making me really wish I was in New York instead of Florida, for other reasons beside all the flooding.
yeah. I was just gonna say, hope you're doing all right with that. By the way, and everybody out there that's in that area. And I was just talking to somebody that they're still dealing with it.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about this event. It's in a couple weeks. Give me the date. Tell me,
So
how it got started, and give me some
so
history
let
on it.
Yeah, so last year we were kicking the tires, as I said earlier. Herb Tracy and I, both members of the organization, the local chapter, New York Metro 7 by 24 Exchange. And we were talking about, in the military, there's so many different aspects that are very similar into what we know as a modern day data center, and the skills and attributes can be applied into the data center. And we found in real life, people that are contractors that we know that are working in the data center from Clune Construction. They have a Hire to Heroes and many others that are Hire to Heroes. There's Slate, We Salute. There's many organizations that see the same thing that we're talking about. But a lot of times, and we're all guilty of this, even folks like myself, when you're take a step back for a second. When you go into the military, whether you go in enlisted or into OCS, Officer Candidate School, you are trained to learn the history of the branch of service, the military, for weeks and months before you even start your boot camp or your OCS. Then you go to your boot camp, and that varies based on branch of service. Could be anywhere from 8 weeks to 13 weeks. Then you go to a specific technical A school, and that varies from 6 weeks to a year,
Wow.
depending on your job. Then from there, you get your first duty assignment, which could vary from 2 to 4 years based on your agreement when you first come in. So now, if you were going to say the shortest time of period, you are getting trained, not programmed, but trained specifically to do that role, that responsibility, the best of your ability. From 2 years to 2 to 4, that's like the minimum. Then if you're somebody that's a lifer, we call it e-cake, because you're re-enlisting and the re-enlisting officer will give you a cake and you eat it and you say, hey, congratulations, you ate cake, right? That said, when you're coming out of the service, the process is very simple. You go to TAP class, which is not a dance class. It's Transition Assistance Program. It's roughly a half a day where they give you wonderful things to learn to help you transition into a civilian career, right? But it's half a day.
Wait a minute.
Hear
Hold
me
on. Hold
out.
on. Hold on. Let me. I want to. So they spend up to 2 years of training you and putting you through A school and all stuff. Then they give you 1 day to
Pretty much.
exit.
Yeah. 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 So they say,
Something's
and
wrong
keep it,
there.
well, keep in mind, and I'm going to throw some numbers at you that might be staggering. So think about this. The bulk of the military, all branches of services, nearly 70% are made up of 18 to 26-year-olds, right? So when you're 18 years old or even 26, you're only out of school, high school or college, for a handful of years. And especially in this day and age, a lot of those young young women and men are still living at home.
Right.
So now they're not responsible for rent,
Right.
taxes,
And then they go to Uncle
medical
Sam.
insurance. Then they go to
Yeah.
Uncle Sam for these 2 to 4 years at minimum.
Well,
And they're told, here's your housing, here's this, here's your medical, here's that, be here on time. And you see where I'm going with this?
yeah. Well, that
So
explains a lot to me actually, because I've mentored. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at my list that I don't actually keep. But I know I've mentored easily half a dozen people coming out of the military looking to transition into the civilian world. And I've never been in the military, although my dad was a lifetime Marine. So I told him when I turned 18 that I spent my 18 years in the Corps already. I'm already going
no,
back to the civilian. He didn't think that was funny. I thought it was rather
I
hilarious.
don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
He didn't think
I'm
it was
only
funny.
laughing because yeah, but you're not
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
son, so
Yeah.
that's
You,
fine.
you know the old saying, once a Marine, always a Marine. There's absolute truth in
Yeah.
that statement, buddy. But
So
but
so
every one of those people that I mentored have one thing in common. And I never really understood it until you just kind of explained it. Because you would think somebody going in this again, just from civilian eyes only,
I'll
this is
solve it
somebody
for you in a second.
this
Go ahead.
this is somebody who went into the service, they were trained, they got disciplined, they got all this knowledge, and they come out, but yet they seem to be lacking confidence in themselves, or confidence in the transition, not themselves, but in the transition,
In
right?
the transition.
In the
I would say
transition.
in the
Yeah,
transition.
yeah, yeah. And I so the like almost every one of them, I'm like, what are you talking about? You've got the same training that almost every technician I know in the field has. Plus, you got a security clearance.
Yeah.
You got the winning. You got the Willy Wonka gold ticket. What are you talking about? And so now
So
it makes sense because they literally give them 1 day
yeah.
for prepping them to go out. That just so now it
And
makes
and
sense.
and 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 truth be told, I loved my time in the service. It was my honor and privilege. It took a misguided youth and turned them into the man I am today. So let me be clear about that. I'm very fond of our military, men and women that serve. The transition is difficult, just like anything else. Change is the scariest word in the human dictionary, right? So that said, Herb and I were talking about this and saying that it's such a challenge for people because a lot of times, and again, I was guilty of it when I was coming out of the service, I was applying to all the government agencies and websites and saying, here's my resume, this is what I'm going to do, this is my cover letter, this is what I could apply my skill set to. And I was putting myself in this little box. And I was saying, this is the only thing that I could do. And then I spoke to one of my mentors who happens to be my father-in-law, and you met him, Chuck.
Yep.
And he happened to be Bell Labs and New York Tel from way back when, and then retired from Lucent Technologies and went through the gamut of manufacturers and he was an end user. That said, he said, why don't you apply your skill set to, contractors? And that's what my first job transition out of the military was. It was working for a contractor and I was running projects. So that was what I did. I didn't go and transition to the sales until I went to my next company. And then I said, oh, wow, I like this because I'm solving problems and I'm getting paid to do it. So, and it's like, I knew the project management side of it and that worked really easy for me. So the evolution for me was a smooth transition because I had a mentor, and then I had several mentors along the way. When I worked at as a manufacturer, I, I was talking to somebody the other day. In the nearly 10 years that I spent at this manufacturer, I had 5 bosses. Each time a promotion came, earned rightfully so, and each one of those managers was a rock star in my opinion. I speak to almost every one of them still to this day, whether they're retired or actively working, because they always were saying, you know, how can I help you? They were never micromanaging me. They were always giving me enough to pull myself up into the boat, make sure that we were all doing what we needed to do. So when going back to my conversation with Herb, we were talking about all that, and we're saying there's a lot of good people out there, and there's a lot of bad people out there, right? And there's a lot of bad people taking advantage of people. And I don't want to say recruiters are good. There's good recruiters out there, but they're misguiding these individuals that are going into different fields that are just not applying themselves. And It's a job. I feel confident that the data center is not going away, and I'll Joe name it that, right?
Yep.
I guarantee that's the way, right? For those of your listeners to know, the Jets,
Okay, I got you on
nice.
record. It's part of the it's going to be on the internet, so it's going to be
The
living
data center,
forever.
the data
So
center will
so if data
evolve.
centers die in 2 weeks, it's all your fault.
It's all my fault. But data center will evolve, no doubt about it. It will change. But the people that come and shape that change, whether it be more robotics, more AI, there's still going to be a lot of people needed, and good people. So if we, Herb and I were talking, if we could educate the folks that are transitioning out of the military and expose them, whether it be from a general contractor aspect, an engineering aspect, a installer contractor aspect, whatever the case may be, we try to put these people together so that they could see that there's a whole world out there. And this data center world that we're talking about with 7 by 24, I think they're doing great things, just like BICSI. But the difference of the two, one's looking at every aspect of a data center, and the other is looking at just the network infrastructure.
How are you
So,
finding these veterans to get a hold of them to tell them about this event?
screaming out the windows is not working. So we're going to social media. Primarily right now, social media is our biggest thing that we're using. LinkedIn, TikTok, X, and then word of mouth. Like Clune Construction has been phenomenal, and many of the other companies, organizations like BlackRock have been phenomenal in getting the word out because they're a very large organization. Right. My company, we touch a few states domestically and a couple of countries around the world, but not nowhere near the reach of companies like Clune or BlackRock or Cisco Hennessy. So we're working with them to get the word out. Again, the event is free, space is limited, so we'll put the information into the show notes. November 11th, 5 p.m. Don't be late. No. And again, all proceeds that we do take, it's going into my kids' college fund. No, it's going to the disabled American veterans because that's a great organization, and we all, the committee that we all voted on it, and we said that there's a lot of good programs out there. You have Wounded Warrior Program, DAV. The list is endless. Mm-hmm. To take one more talk about why we're doing this is because the misguided individuals, and I started saying that 70% of the military is comprised of 18 to 26-year-olds. When they get thrusted in to this scary change, new world, and they're not prepared, I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it's a big contributing factor that 22 individuals, veterans, men and women from every branch of military, take their own lives into their hand every single day. So that was one of the reasons why we've been very vocal about this, because we know post-traumatic stress disorder and addictions to opioids and other pain medicines is another contributing factor. But we know that if you don't have a job, or don't have a career, you don't have a career path, and you don't have people supporting you in the right direction, it's a challenge, and we want people to know we're in it together.
Absolutely. That ties in perfectly with the social media post that I did, I guess it was about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, about suicide. I had no idea the impact that I honestly didn't almost put that up. And I've had so many people reach out to me that said that, hey, just want to let you know, I'm walking the same path that you were walking. And I've even had I had one lady, her husband showed her that post, and then she reached out to me on social media and said, hey, it resonated with my husband. Thank you for putting out there, making it aware so he doesn't feel alone. And I told her, I said, look, have him call me. Have him call me. Because the struggles he's going with were the same struggles I went through at the same age with, being a young father with kids and all the other
That's
stuff.
tough.
And just,
Well, that's the thing. Like, and I know, in addition to the folks, the men and women that proudly served in the military that have taken their own lives at 22 a day, that there are many people of all races, religions, creeds,
Yep.
all throughout life.
Yep.
But I will point out, and this is the military website is veteranva.gov. It'll have the statistics to check me, but I think the veterans make up about 5% of the population, the U.S. population, and we're I think 25%
Wow.
number of the suicide rate in its entirety.
Yep. And I'm a big proponent that we need to take care of our veterans. And I really think that whichever candidate gets elected, my show is not about politics, but
Yeah,
whichever
no,
one gets
absolutely.
elected, they
Politics
really need to
aside.
look at the veterans affairs and
Yeah.
really step up the game, because we need to take care of the veterans before we
Honestly,
take care of
Chuck,
anybody else.
honestly, Chuck, I think the biggest thing, and this is where I said earlier in your show, I said I'll solve the problem. The transition issue is a huge contributing factor, in my opinion, as a business owner, right? And you've worked in many different companies. As a business owner, when I pay not only an employee's salary and benefits, but when I'm paying and investing in an employee's training and development, I don't want to see that employee gone. I want them to celebrate 20 years, 30 years, 40
Right.
years. And the military is no different. They have an allocated budget. Jane Smith comes in. They're going to pay them a salary. They're going to give them clothing allowance, housing allowance, food. And, whether it be 2 years, 4 years, or 20, they're investing millions of dollars into that individual. So they want to make sure they get the proper ROI. I get that. But at the same token, and again, with all due respect, I love the military, love our government, and despite whoever wins, I'm still going to be pushing for our vets to get better support and better care for. The thing is that the transition period needs to be addressed. Somebody's got to say, hey, you know what's happening in a year from now? If you're leaving, what are you doing?
Right.
What's the cost of living and where you're going back? Are you going back to mom and dad's house and sleeping on the couch? Or do you have a plan where you're investing wisely so that you're going to have a career path, so that when you come out, you're hitting the street, you're running, and that's the thing. You got to take full advantage of it. And, that's what we're trying to do with the Veterans Outreach Program at 7x24, the Metro chapter.
Anthony, great organization, great event. Make sure you send me all that information so I can put it in the show descriptions, and we'll help get that notice out there for you.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Chuck. As always.
Take care, my friend.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.